pursuing other individuals that choose to commit violence and wreak havoc in our community. On Monday, February 20th, 23, at about 5:30 p.m., NOPD 7 District officers responded to a call of shots fired at I-10 in Bundy. Upon their arrival, officers located a black Dodge and a white Nissan that were involved in a crash on the interstate. Two men were located inside of the black Dodge, suffering from apparent gunshot wounds. EMS technician pronounced both individuals deceased on scene. Officers located inside of the white Nissan a 35-year-old man, a 38-year-old woman, and an unidentified woman. The unidentified woman also sustained a gunshot wound in that incident. EMS technicians transported the three victims to a local hospital. The preliminary investigation indicates that the shooting occurred at the intersection of North I-10 Service Road at Bundy, where the Dodge veered through a fence onto the interstate and crashed into the Nissan. The Nissan was traveling westbound on the interstate between Reed and Crowder. So on February 22nd, the Orleans Parish Coroner's Office identified the deceased victims as 35-year-old Andrew Stiller and 21-year-old Janelle Hampton. The cause of death for both victims were a result of gunshot wounds. Through an investigation by the men standing behind me, homicide detectives developed and positively identified Mr. Tyree Quinn, his date of birth is 1/12/1990, as the perpetrator in this incident. An arrest warrant was then obtained on February 28, for Mr. Quinn for 2 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. Today, Quinn was located in a residence also within the 7th District, where he was arrested by our VALS team and our U.S. Marshals without incident and booked accordingly at the Orleans Parish Justice Center. We are not done. This is still an open and active investigation. We are still looking to identify 3 individuals that are tied to this investigation. I'm asking the public to please come forward with information. Tell us what you know. Tell us what you saw. You can contact Detective Rayel Johnson directly at 504-658-5300, or through Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. And you do not have to give your name.
All right, we'll take questions beginning on my left and ending on my right.
Do we believe this was a targeted shooting?
We do believe at this time.
So, is there evidence that there was more than one gun fired, and how did the female occupant in the other car sustain a gunshot?
So to answer your first question, we do have multiple suspects, and all of them were armed. It appears that the victim, the female victim that you're referring to, may have received a bullet that was not intended for her.
Was this a hired ambush execution?
We have no evidence that indicates that.
You have a targeted individual. Both the victim to the intended target was, jumping in a ride share. Do you have the evidence on how that was tracked, how they came across each other?
No, not at this time.
Missy?
So that area near the high rise around and also around Bundy has been a hot spot for shootings. Has NOPD changed its patrols around those areas?
Yes, that's a great question. We have made some adjustment to our deployment strategies. As you continue to ride through the New Orleans East, you'll see more marked vehicles with lights and sirens on, just to combat some of the issues that we were experiencing on I-10.
Jordan Livingcott with WGNO. Can you talk a little bit about the difficulty when it comes to making an arrest or arrest in interstate shootings? Why is it more complicated than a street shooting?
Well, I can offer my opinion. I believe that there's less witnesses that remain around. We don't have as much technology along the interstate, such as cameras, the real-time crime center cameras. We don't have ring videos. So that's just my opinion. That's one hurdle that we would have to get by that makes it more difficult to solve those types of homicides.
Natasha?
Tyree Quinn, was he wearing an ankle monitor and did that, assist at all in locating him and making the arrest?
Yes, ma'am. That information was made public just a few minutes ago, so we do have some information that he was wearing an ankle monitor, and it absolutely aided in this investigation with his apprehension.
Can you talk about his criminal history? He has quite a criminal history as well.
I prefer not to talk about his criminal history and focus on what he's connected to today, which is the shooting of 2 victims who lost their lives and 3 others who are fighting for their lives right now.
I want to be respectful of this investigation. I have a question for a separate investigation, if y'all are able to do it.
No, we'll talk about that
after.
offline. Yeah.
Any connections or anything you can speak of regarding the motive or the connection to Tyree and those who were shot, those the passenger?
In the other vehicle?
Correct.
Yes, ma'am. No, it was just a vehicle traveling about their way. The vehicle that the intended target was in lost control and struck that vehicle that was traveling westbound on I-10.
But what about a motive in the apparent intended target John Allen?
We don't have a motive at this time.
Can you talk about the bullets that struck the driver of the vehicle that they crashed into? Did those bullets come from the service road, or do you believe that the shooters ended up on the interstate to shoot again?
So we do have evidence that stretches from the interstate all the way to the service road. So that would lead me to believe they were on the interstate at some point.
The shooters?
Yes, ma'am.
With one suspect in custody, I guess looking to name others, multiple guns, could you just describe the nature of this? This sounds like a very serious, targeted, shooting. 4 people possibly armed in a car looking for an intended target.
What's your question again? What would you like me to describe?
It sounds like an overkill. 4 people with guns in a car seeking out and finding a target.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. It's senseless. It's barbaric. I've never seen anything like that in my 20+ years on the job. It's unnecessary. So I can go on and on about that, but it was absolutely senseless.
And just on the spelling,
Last
Tyree,
question.
T-Y-R-E-E, Quinn, Q-U-I-N?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys for coming out, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.